Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into Okta Inc., a big name in identity and access management, or IAM.
You probably use it every day without realizing it.
Oh yeah? Like how?
Like logging into work apps or online bank. Oh, that secure access, that's IAM silently guarding our digital world.
So it's kind of like a digital bouncer keeping the wrong people out.
Exactly. And with cloud computing, remote work, and cybersecurity threats, the need for solid IAM is huge.
Okay, so lots of need, which is good for business,
Yeah.
but what about investors?
Well, that's what we're here to figure out. We're going to look at Okta through the lens of value investing.
Will it make us rich like Warren Buffett, or will it leave us hanging? Stick around to find out.
And by the end, you'll see how Okta connects to a surprising historical figure, someone you might not expect.
Ooh, mysterious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break down what Okta actually does.
They provide cloud-based IAM solutions, subscription-based, so they get recurring revenue, which investors love.
Makes sense. So businesses pay Okta to manage and secure access to all their digital stuff.
Right, but what's interesting is their focus on integration.
Integration.
Yep. Okta's built a system that works with both modern and legacy systems, those older systems some companies still use.
Ah, so they bridge the gap between old and new tech.
Exactly, a huge advantage today. Their Okta integration network has over 7,000 pre-built integrations.
Wow, so like a universal translator for digital identity, they can speak the language of the old and the new.
Precisely. They offer things like single sign-on, so you log in once for multiple apps, multi-factor authentication for extra security, even API access management.
All that behind-the-scenes stuff that keeps our digital lives running smoothly.
All crucial for a secure digital world.
Okay, impressive stuff now. Who's the brains behind all this?
Okta is led by CEO Todd McKinnon. They've seen impressive growth under him, but
There's a but.
there have been some challenges, a few security breaches, which, trust is everything in IAM.
Yeah, security breaches at a security company that's got to hurt.
Definitely shook things up, but their response was interesting. They went for transparency.
What, like owning up to the mistakes?
No, exactly. Communicating with customers about the breaches, what they did to fix them, and the investments made to improve their security.
So they didn't try to sweep it under the rug.
No, they were proactive, which is good to see, but did these breaches hurt their bottom line? That's the question.
Right, let's talk numbers. How's their financial performance?
Overall, quite strong, consistent revenue growth and profitabilities. Improving their subscription model helps with that predictable recurring revenue.
Always good for business. So what stood out to you when you looked at their financials?
Q4 of fiscal year 2025, they went from a net loss to a profit of $23 million, a big turnaround.
Wow, that's a nice jump.
And their remaining performance obligations are climbing basically future guaranteed revenue, good sign for investors.
So things are looking up financially, but what about their cash position? Are they flush with cash or scraping by?
They're not drowning in cash, but they have a net cash position.
So they've got some wiggle room.
Exactly. Flexibility for investments, acquisitions, even stock buybacks.
So not swimming in it, but not strapped for cash either. That's a good spot to be.
Precisely gives them options. And remember, we're looking at Okta as a potential investment, right?
Right. And a company's financials are just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. We need to consider market sentiment, ownership structure, and risks. But we'll get to that after a quick look.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on Okta.
Okay, so we've covered financials. But what about market sentiment? Is Okta a Wall Street darling? Or are investors a little hesitant?
Well, their stock has been kind of volatile lately, which is not unusual for a fast-growing sector like IAM.
Makes sense. Investors get nervous when things are unpredictable.
Right. And some of that volatility is tied to those security breaches we talked about. Concerns about reputation and future growth.
Security is kind of a big deal in their business.
Exactly. But remember, their strong Q4 results and their positive outlook for the next fiscal year.
So are they turning things around?
It seems that way. A lot of analysts are now rating Okta as a moderate buy. So cautious, but optimistic. Okay. Cautiously optimistic. So not a screaming buy, but not a sell either.
Right. They seem to think Okta is addressing those past concerns and capitalizing on the growth in the IAM market.
Okay, so Wall Street's giving them a tentative thumbs up.
For now, at least.
All right, let's move on to ownership structure. Who are the big players holding Okta stock?
We see a good mix of institutional investors, which is generally a good sign. It shows confidence from big players.
Right, like those who invest millions, not just a few $100.
Exactly. And one of the early investors who saw Okta's potential was Sequoia Capital.
Sequoia Capital, they were kind of a big deal in venture capital, right?
Oh, yeah. Very successful track record. So their early backing gives Okta some serious credibility.
So it's not just a bunch of random investors betting on Okta. There are some seasoned pros in the mix.
Right, and that diverse ownership suggests a lot of support for the company and their leadership.
So we've got a growing market, a company with decent financials, and a diverse group of investors who seem to believe in Okta's future.
Sounds promising, but let's be real, no investment is without risk.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So what are some of the potential red flags for Okta? What should investors be wary of?
For that, let's do a classic SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
I love a good SWOT analysis. It's like a roadmap to help us navigate the potential risks and rewards.
Exactly. So let's start with Okta's strengths. They've got a strong brand even after those security issues, and they're known for being innovative.
So a good reputation and always pushing the boundaries, that's a plus.
Right, and their huge integration network is a major asset, plus their recurring revenue model gives them a solid financial base.
Okay, so strong, brand-wide reach, predictable revenue, and a focus on innovation. That's a good foundation.
It is, but no company's perfect, right? So weaknesses, those past security breaches, even though they've been addressed, they still might worry some investors.
Yeah, security is paramount in their business.
Yeah.
Any other weaknesses we should consider?
Well, they rely heavily on big enterprise customers, so if that market takes a hit, Okta could feel it.
Makes sense. Not all their eggs in one basket, but a big part of it.
Right. And while their profitability is improving, they need to show consistent profitability on a GAAP basis to really satisfy some investors.
So security concerns customer concentration and the need to consistently hit those profitability targets. Got it.
Now let's look at opportunities. The IAM market is growing like crazy, and Okta is in a good spot to grab a bigger piece of that pie.
Ride the wave of growth. Sounds like a plan.
Plus, they could expand into new product categories within cybersecurity, leverage their expertise and their customer base.
So sticking with what they know, but branching out, smart move.
And let's not forget, acquisitions. They could buy companies with technologies or customers that complement what they already have.
Acquisitions can be risky, but if done right, they could really boost growth.
Absolutely. Now, for the threats, competition is a big one. They're up against giants like Microsoft with tons of resources and those deep relationships with big companies.
David versus Goliath kind of situation.
Yeah. In a way, and the cybersecurity landscape is constantly changing, so Okta has to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to new threats.
The bad guys never sleep, so Okta can't either.
Right. Any slip-up could hurt their reputation and make customers lose trust.
It's a high-pressure game, for sure. Any other threats on the radar?
Well, an economic downturn is always a possibility. It could lead to businesses cutting back on IT spending, which would impact Okta's growth.
Yeah, that's a risk for a lot of companies, especially those that depend on enterprise spending.
Exactly. So we've looked at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A pretty comprehensive SWOT analysis.
It has been a deep dive.
Yeah.
So after all that, what's your overall take on Okta? Do they have what it takes to succeed in this competitive world?
Okta is a mixed bag like most companies, but they have a lot going for them. They're leaders in a growing market, they're committed to innovation, and their leadership team seems to be learning from their mistakes.
So they've shown they can adapt and evolve, which is crucial in the tech world.
Absolutely, but those challenges are still there, especially the competition and the need to maintain those high security standards.
It's a high-stakes game for sure, but for investors who can handle a little risk, Okta might be worth a closer look.
Precisely. Okta's future depends on how well they navigate this complex and ever-changing landscape. Now, remember that intriguing historical figure I mentioned earlier?
I do. I'm dying to know who it is.
Well, believe it or not, there are some interesting parallels between Okta's focus on identity security and the work of Alan Turing.
Alan Turing, the code breaker who helped win World War II, that's a surprising connection.
It is, if you think about it. Turing was all about deciphering codes, verifying identities, making sure the right people had access to the right information, just like Okta, but in a totally different context.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It really highlights how crucial identity security has always been, even before the digital age.
So Okta's work is part of a long tradition of keeping things secure.
Exactly. And who knows what the future holds for IAM? Maybe Okta will be leading the way with some groundbreaking innovations.
It's an exciting field for sure. What do you think about Okta's prospects? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stock suggestions based on what we've discussed.
We're always eager to hear from fellow investors.
And if you're hungry for more insightful analyses like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Stock Analytics AI YouTube channel. We've got a ton of financial knowledge just waiting for you.
We've got a whole library of deep dives waiting to be explored.
And before we wrap up, a quick disclaimer. The information we've shared is for educational purposes only, not Investment advice? Our research is generated with the help of AI, which we think is pretty reliable. But always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Investing involves risk, and it's important to understand those risks before you jump in.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Okta. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and invest wisely.